Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pop Go the Writers. Now, I have a feeling that our viewership may be down a little bit because it is wild card weekend in the NFL, and it has definitely been a wild weekend.
Is is that a sports thing?
It is a sports thing. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Um, that's something I always find it funny is that nerd culture. Most of the people in the nerd culture, or um, take great pride in not knowing anything about sports. They will, they is that a sport? Is it you know what football is? You
well,
know, or they
yes,
yeah,
yeah, but
or they call it
I don't know about this wild card stuff.
or they call it sport ball. You know, is that sport ball? Yeah. And again, hey Amy, good to see you. So, but I always find that funny because it's like as much as the nerd culture, the nerd community want to be inclusive and
hmm
stuff, not with
hmm
the jocks. Nope, not sports. No, you guys are out.
There's
And
an entire conversation there, Dan, and
I know.
uh, there is a big crossover between the two. I have found,
Mhm.
um, and there's the same mentality for the most part there. Comic book fans, sports fans. I've done some deep comparisons. Between the two. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't. It's funny. I came out of a big sports family and do not follow it. Have no desire to follow it. It doesn't move me at all. I don't mind seeing a baseball game live every once in a while, but other than that,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah. See,
Give me
I grew up in, comic book reading and Star Wars and all that, but I also grew up a fan of football and baseball. And,
Mhm.
I was watching the tonight's game prior up until a few minutes before showtime. And I
Yeah,
probably would have it on the background, except I watch it on my computer and I don't want to mess the bandwidth up for the show. You know?
sure. My dad is it's funny. He's an immense sports fan, but he's also a huge geek too.
Mhm.
you know all of my interests, my non-sports interests, all come from him, but he is also a big sports fan. I mean, he's like perfectly split right down the middle of those two things, so it can happen.
See, that's interesting. See, I didn't grow up with either in my family. I'm the only one who got into the nerd culture stuff, D&D and all
Mhm.
that. None of my family, none of my immediate family
Hmm.
did any of that.
Hmm.
My brother liked football, but that he got into it later in life. He didn't really watch it. He eventually became a Broncos fan and now is not a Broncos fan anymore.
Mhm.
It's a long story, um,
Okay.
but I grew up liking sports. I carried a Steve Garvey baseball card in my back pocket all the time. It was like when I got a wallet, I had to put something in it. So I put a Steve Garvey baseball card in it. Um, so yeah, I grew up a huge sports fan, and I grew up listening to the Dodger games on the radio. So
Hmm.
Vin Scully was like an old friend to me because I would listen to him all the time. He was a soothing voice, and or I
Sure.
got into watching the Rams, and then when the Rams left LA, I decided to pick a new team, and I ended up becoming a Carolina Panthers fan.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, football, baseball, basketball, you know, I got all into that stuff. But again, no one else in my family,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, no, I have an older brother and sister who are, more sports fans, and they're not the geeky, they're not into the geeky stuff at all. So, yeah, it's funny. My dad would, go out in the backyard and throw a football or baseball back and forth with my brother, but he'd turn to me and like, you want to throw a baseball? It's like, no, Dad, I just want to read a book. Or can I just watch a Star Trek, a rerun of Star Trek on TV?
Yeah,
But he would sit me down and say, this show's The Prisoner, you really need to watch this, or Star Trek or something like that. So it all worked out.
yeah. No, my dad was a worker. Basically, his life revolved around his job,
Hmm.
and making sure he could be there every day. So he didn't do sports. We never played catch. I actually used to play catch with my mom in the front yard.
Okay.
Until I started getting friends and played with them. But
Yeah.
my dad, I never saw my dad throw a baseball or a football. And he never got in. I don't remember him ever listening to any music.
Oh, wow. Yeah, see,
Uh,
my dad's a big music guy
yeah,
too.
yeah. I'd get into his car and it would have the news station because he needed to hear traffic for getting to work and stuff like that. And and the only time he would watch he'd watch old movies. That was his thing on the weekends. He'd sit and watch. He'd take a nap and watch westerns and or old Bond movies and stuff like that. But other than that, But then when he retired, I had bought my mom a computer, and so she could play solitaire. I literally bought her a computer to play solitaire. And I came over about 2 weeks later, and suddenly they had a printer and books on computers. And my dad was trying to figure out how to get a second computer because he wanted to network them.
Wow.
And it's like out of the blue, suddenly he was this computer guy and a tech guy. And my dad ran a printing press for his whole life.
Yeah.
When had you ever heard of California coolers?
I think so.
They were like the first round of wine coolers, them and Bartle.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
All the little carrying cases they came in those. My dad printed those.
Okay.
Or there was a toy in the 70s and 80s called Pulsar.
Yeah, I had that. Yeah, with the beating heart and the lungs and the.
My dad made the boxes for that. Yeah, my dad made the boxes for that.
Oh, well, I had one of those boxes plus the toy inside, too.
I had one of the boxes. I never had the toy.
Oh. Here, son, here's an empty box.
He would bring the box home and say, "You might like this. This is kind of." And I did. I had the box for a long time. Never got around to it.
It was pretty cool. I remember that. Oh, Dan, now I feel really, really bad. I think that somebody should buy you a Pulsar now.
I would want it mint in box just because of my dad making it.
Oh, well, that's that's very cool. They just recently remade Pulsar, but in the little version. Mattel revived 3 properties just probably for copyright protection again, but they took the old Marvel superheroes Buck, the blank body form, and they made a special set, and it was Major Matt Mason, Big Jim, Big Jim, and Pulsar, but they're only like this big. They're not, Pulsar was a 12-inch figure.
I did have the Big Jim. I had the guy with the weird arm that could,
Oh, Torpedo Fist?
Yeah, Torpedo Fist.
Yeah.
And then I got into the Super G.I. Joes when they came out. The
Super Joe, 9.
Yeah, it was like Luminos. And,
that followed the Adventure Team. Yep.
Yeah, and I remember having the shield guy, the blue guy with the light up shield and stuff. Yep.
Now I feel really bad for you.
Yeah, and then I got into Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
The funny is, I owned Star Wars figures before I saw the movie.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't see it in the first round when it came out, but it came out like they re-released it a few months later, and I saw it then.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom worked at Kmart, and we went in the store, and I had a few dollars. I had my allowance. I think I had like $5. And my brother comes over to me and goes, "There's these new weird toys on the end cap over here. You might like them." So I went over, and they had 2 of them. I think they were like $2.15 or $2.17 each, so I could get 2. And I remember getting Darth Vader and Chewbacca.
Sure.
I had no idea who the good guys were, who the bad guys were.
Well, at least you got one good guy and one bad guy.
But they were the tallest, and I had those for a long time.
Hey, what are all these people coming in here? They should be watching the football game.
I don't know. Well, Amy's a regular, and Jay, of course. But with Willow coming to an end, Is the Last of Us a possibility for the next review? Also, how are we doing, guys? We're doing good, aren't we, John? Jim, John.
I'll go check on John.
Okay.
But
I was going to say Jay because I read Jay's thing. I'm like, that's not right. So I tried to switch, and
I'm all good. You were in the neighborhood of my name.
I was in the J's, and that was what.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's the other popular J name. Popular.
Yep. Yeah. So I apologize for taking this trip down my childhood memory lane here.
I find it fascinating, especially the pulsar thing. I find that utterly fascinating.
Yeah. So The Last of Us, that's a good question. We do need to figure out what we're going to cover now that Willow's wrapped up. Is The Last of Us something you'd be interested in, or?
You always embarrass me because I don't watch all these other things. What streaming service is that on? I remember I only have Disney Plus. Damn it! Bad hair day going on.
I was gonna say I think it's Netflix.
Okay.
Let me check.
I mean, I can fake it. I can say, "Oh yeah, Last of Us. Wow, good show."
Oh no, it's an HBO show.
HBO Max.
Yeah, I know you hate them.
I saw Shin Ultraman.
Really? How was that?
Like really, really good. Like really fun, and different from Shin Godzilla. I'm so glad that I went. I almost went back the second night. It was only 2 nights, 2 days in the North America. And from what I understand, I think it ended up being like 5th at the box office for the week. Supposedly it did well for only being out for 2 days.
Yeah. No, the top 5 of the box office. Number 5 was actually was a new movie.
Well, I wonder what people were telling me then.
What's number 5? It's Plane was number 5. Now it might have been number 5 for the day.
Okay, well maybe that's what it is then. But I did see people saying that it did actually pretty well for only being out for 2 days.
Yeah.
But it was a really interesting way they did it. It was in theaters 2 days. Wednesday they were showing a subtitle version of it, the original Japanese, and then with English subtitles. And then the very next day they showed a dubbed version of it, where with English dubbing. And I decided to do the subtitle one, and I'm glad I did. But I enjoyed myself so much I almost went back the next night to see the dub version. And from what I understand, that people really said the dubbing was very good. Those days of the horrible Japanese movies being dubbed into English are in horrible ways are over. I guess it was pretty good. But anyways, like I'm a huge Ultraman fan, and it was a sort of a reimagining of the 1966 Ultraman. And they did so many wonderful little touchstones here and there. They actually used a ton of the original music from the show. And as far as I can tell, they didn't re-record it. It's like the incidental music. It's the actual incidental music in a modern movie. It was really, really fun, and there were things that if you were in the know, you got and you caught on, but if you didn't, it shouldn't have mattered. I think it was still a good movie. It's kind of episodic because it's based on a TV series. And I can't wait to own it on disc. They did say that that it is coming this spring, if I'm not mistaken, on Blu-ray. I'm trying to think. It's like Cleopatra. I can't remember what the company is. There's a North American company that has gotten the the official rights to do a disc on it. But same director as Shin Godzilla. Did you ever see Shin Godzilla?
I didn't. I was going to ask you, is Shin the production company, or what is?
No, shin is it's a Japanese word that it can be translated in two or three different ways, but one of the ways it can be translated and is appropriate to this is new. Shin means new. So it's
Okay.
new Godzilla, new Ultraman. And they're coming, and the director is going to be doing a third one that comes out in Japan this year. And I assume that if we get it, it'll be next year. And it's Kamen Rider. So it's Shin Kamen Rider, which is one of the other big, huge
Yeah.
franchises in Japan. Shin Godzilla is really really fun and really fascinating because it's mostly about the Japanese government reaction to Godzilla attacking the city instead of being more about attacking Godzilla attacking the city. Um, it, it, Several years ago, they had the big tsunami that was
Mhm.
like pretty bad in Japan,
Yeah.
and they say that Shin Godzilla is kind of a response to the actual Japanese government's reaction to the tsunami. There's not as much governmental reaction stuff going on in Shin Ultraman, but that vibe is still kind of in it. It's it's goofier than it's more fantasy than Shin Godzilla because it's emulating a TV series about a giant alien coming to Earth and fighting off giant monsters and other aliens who are constantly trying to invade Earth.
There is a theme with the Japanese of giant things, aren't they? Aren't there?
Yeah, that's a really good point because a lot of their culture is also about miniaturization.
Mhm.
But yeah, in their pop culture, giant monsters, giant this, giant that. Really fascinating kind of dichotomy there. And I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know enough about Japanese culture. There, there's this really funny thing that I really want to look into. That's in Shin Ultraman is that one character, one of the female agents of the government group that's tasked with fight looking into and fighting back of the giant monsters. She's got this thing about like grabbing her own rear end and then acting like she's grabbing other people's rear ends. It's the weirdest thing. It's almost like the football thing about slapping your teammate on the rear end. Where
Mhm.
she's got this thing, but she like does this thing where she like slaps and grabs her own ass for some reason, and it's like it keeps happening throughout the whole movie, and I'm like, it's either some kind of a Japanese thing or they're making fun of Americans maybe doing that in sports or something like that. They keep
Uh,
using the word buddy because the one other guy that's supposed to be her partner is Ultraman in his human form, and she keeps saying like, "You're okay, we're partners, so you're supposed to be my buddy," but yet you keep disappearing. Well, they keep saying buddy throughout the whole movie, except it's in English. It's always like Japanese, Japanese buddy, Japanese, Japanese, Japanese. There's so much English that's inserted here and there, and it's seemingly by random. Like you wonder why wouldn't the Japanese have a word for this or that, but they stick in all this English.
but we
And
do that too. There's a lot of foreign words that we use
yeah, I guess
synonymous. I
I
mean,
guess that might be it. I mean, it's funny because we don't have a lot of Japanese words that we use, and they
no.
use a lot of English words. My thought is this, and someone can prove me completely wrong. I think it might have stemmed from the occupation that they suddenly had a lot of English speaking people in their country. And
Mhm.
you'll see that in the shows, in Godzilla movies and in Ultraman shows from the 60s and the 70s. They'll be filming in actual Tokyo, and they'll be, all this the kanji characters, the Japanese characters, but then there'll be English here and there, and it must have been because they absorbed so much English from all the English soldiers and people that were in the country at the time.
So yeah, I can see during the occupation the word buddy becoming a big thing, and then just there not being a equivalent word.
I guess maybe so. There was one scene in one of the original Ultraman shows where two guys are working on a car, and it's all Japanese, and then they say, like, I think it's alternator or something like that, and they literally go blah 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 alternator, blah 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 blah. And it's like, wait a minute, they have no word for I don't get it myself. And what's famous about Ultraman is that he uses the beta capsule to change into Ultraman. In the very first Ultraman episode in '66, the Ultraman is telling Hayata about using the beta capsule, and it's Japanese beta capsule. Japanese. It's like I get maybe beta, but they don't have a word for capsule.
Maybe not.
I think it was maybe because it was cool to the kids to suddenly have some English in there. I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway, high marks on Shin Ultraman, and I would recommend it, and especially recommend Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, you mentioned Kamen Rider and Godzilla, and what's funny is Jay's here. We do that show on late Tuesday night, or on Tuesdays, where we review some of the latest books. And there are both an IDW series on Godzilla called Godzilla Rivals. Which is not that good.
Because it doesn't look that good.
No. Basically, they keep putting humans in it. Nobody wants the humans. But, and then they're also, Titan is doing a Kamen Rider series written by a friend of mine, Brandon Easton. And it's pretty good. It follows pretty much, if you're a Kamen Rider fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 episodes out so far from Titan.
Oh, wow. I totally missed that. See, that's the problem with there's too many comic books coming out these days.
Yeah.
It's hard to follow everything. And if your comic shop does not carry everything.
Yeah. Kamen Rider Zero, I think it's called.
I'll have to look into that. I've watched several episodes of the original first Kamen Rider from it's like 1971 or whatever the heck it is. So the new movie, it looks like they've barely redesigned the look. They're using the actual look from that first Kamen Rider show. So I'm hoping that comes. Kamen Rider does not have the recognition factor in North America. Godzilla certainly does, and Ultraman would to some point, but then you get to Kamen Rider and it's kind of like but I think on the strength of the director that it'll come. He also directed an Evangeline, what's that called? Evangeline, whatever that's.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Evangeline.
There's been something recent with that. He's the director of that too. So I think a lot of people would recognize, of that. And I'm crossing fingers.
When they do Shin Giant Robot, I'm in.
Shin Johnny Sako. Yeah.
Here's an ironic
too. Yes, I am too. I'm glad you said that.
I just got an email from HBO Max reminding me that the series premiere of Last of Us is out.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, guys. I guess I asked and you sent me an email.
Now, are you up on Willow?
I am. So let's talk about the season finale.
Yeah.
So I will say that I was happy the same director continued because there was a great look to the episode. It was a bit of a mess, story-wise, kind of all over the place. But I liked a lot of it, and it kind of brought it around for me, which I didn't know it was. The 7th episode really started bringing it around, but the 8th episode really kind of sung it home to me, and I really am hoping we get a second season because I want to know what happened to Mad Mardigan.
Yeah. And third, according to the books at the end, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. I did a show on Thursday about the finale and whether or not I thought it deserved more. So,
Mhm.
but what were your thoughts on it?
Oh, number one, I liked it. The wrap up was satisfactory to me, and I really enjoyed it. I don't think I agree with you completely that it was a mess, but I mean I see what you're saying, that there was a lot going on
Yeah,
in that. Um, um, but they, again, just like episode 7, they turned the humor down just enough for me that it wasn't so distracting. And it's mostly Borman now that really gets that, because he's that guy,
and
I
I'm
guess.
fine with that. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, okay, but what it was is it was getting to the point where everybody was Mr. or Mrs. One-liner.
yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. I was distraught at the what ended up with oh my god, the characters' names flew out of my head.
Graydon,
Huh?
Graydon.
Graydon, thank you. You read my mind. That was that didn't sit well with me, and if this show doesn't come back, I'm going to be a little upset, because I need to know more about that whole thing. I know you didn't care much for that he becomes a sorcerer. To you, it was kind of out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed the things that he did in that. I even enjoyed, it's funny, I kind of came almost all the way around with Kit. It was great having her in the armor, and all of that, and especially Alora. I can't believe how much I grew to like that character from the very beginning, and then to the end. I didn't look it up because I kept forgetting to do it. I want to know what's the deal with Mad Mardigan's voice, as far as who is that? Who is doing the voice?
From what I
Because
understand, it's computer generated.
then, you know what, Dan? That's really good. That's made
Yeah.
strides even since they've done young Luke in Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, because I thought it was way too many words and sentences to be computer generated. That was really good, because I said, that does sound like a younger Val Kilmer, you know. But then I guess if they actually do ever get Val in the show, like, I guess if they get him out of that place that he's in, that would be the explanation as to why his voice is no longer young, or if he
Yeah.
can't talk at all,
Yeah, because I know they when he does speak in Top Gun,
Mm-hmm.
it's computer generated as well.
Okay.
So, but
Okay.
yeah, it's the same technology they used for young Luke and stuff.
That's
So
good to
and it's
know.
yeah. Eventually, we're not going to need actors anymore. We're just going to, Gregory Peck is going to be starring in everything, and
Well,
you know,
well, I've got that friends have been posting about how the supposedly AI is going to do away with writers altogether. Like,
yeah,
oh, great. Once publishers and other places figure out that they don't need a human writer anymore, and they can just get the AI to generate it. Oh, great.
eventually the AI is going to figure out they don't need humans
Yeah,
anymore.
I was going to say they're not going to need the publishers anymore either. So watch
Yeah,
out, buddy.
yeah,
But overall, I'm really happy. I'm so glad it came back around. I wish I could like wholeheartedly recommend the series to someone, but I feel like I would need to say good start, weak middle, good ending.
yeah,
But like get through that middle part if you can.
yeah. I mean, episodes 1 and 2 were good. Episodes 7 and 8 were good.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of were all over the place.
Yeah.
I'll even give them episode 6. Because I think
Oh, that's the one
Christian,
with
Christian Slater.
Yeah.
So, and even though the bad guys are more silly than threatening,
Mm-hmm.
I thought Slater kind of brought that one around.
Yeah, it was. To me, it was right in 4 and 5. That was when I was going like, oh, what did I kind of get myself into here?
Yeah, the
we're going
whole
to keep going with this.
see, I for me that ending with closing the book and seeing there's 2 more volumes,
Mm-hmm.
that brought a lot more to the series for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because that made me go, okay, so all of the stuff we do in the first, those moments like spending time with the Ravagers or whatever the name of that group was, um, Graydon becoming a sorcerer, those things, they could be setups for things we're doing. And
Yeah.
if we find out that there's something up with Graydon, that there's a reason he suddenly became a sorcerer,
Mm-hmm.
or these things start making sense because they're setups for later on,
Yeah.
then I'm golden. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that elevates the series quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
with the idea that it's 3 series or 3 seasons, but we've got to get to those seasons.
Yeah.
I agree with you that Borman being the only one making the jokes, or mainly the one making the jokes,
Mainly.
is much better. When he closes the door, turns to take on that group, and his battle cry is, "Who brought the butter?"
wait, I actually went, wait, did he just say what I thought he said? But it just, things keep going on and then you don't think about it anymore. But it's like, that really sounded like he said, "Who brought the butter?"
Yep. And of course, my mind went back to Last Tango in Paris. Fetch the butter.
Well, maybe that's what they wanted you to think.
I think they did.
Okay.
I think they did. And then you stack that with him when he first gets down to this ancient city, and he's like suggesting that they make out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Is it just me or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to bring it back around, like, well, then we go in there. Oh, you think we should just, well, I've already suggested making out and you guys nixed that. So for me, that character elevated as well in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was really impressed with the finale. I thought they brought home a lot of stuff I didn't think they would be able to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated how heroic Willow felt over the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Because they kind of downplayed him, and the whole, well, I'm not really a sorcerer. I'm not that good a sorcerer.
Yeah.
And it's like, he kicks ass.
Yep.
He kicks major ass.
But does he completely ruin his staff by breaking the top of it and taking the crystal out of it?
Yeah. Now he could probably make a new staff.
I would like to think that maybe he could.
Yeah, I think the crystal's probably the important part.
Okay.
Yeah. But and I agree with you on Kit. By the end of 7 and 8 redeemed her immensely, to the point that I really liked her. And something I noticed, and I don't know why, but did you notice that Alora went from being a blonde to a major redhead by the end of the series?
Yeah, because she stopped doing that thing that she said that they did with her hair, because she is supposed to be a redhead. Right. There was something really early on that she said what she used to do her hair or something like that. It was one of those silly little things that made her sound kind of silly. But yeah, it reminded me of Black Widow bleaches her hair, but then in Endgame, she's letting it go back to red again. But yes, yeah, I did notice that. It's because she's out doing all that stuff, so she's not doing the. I'm trying to remember what it was. If it was something along the lines of, if it had anything to do with Sorsha, to kind of, in a way, to hide her even more, to make sure that
it probably did.
Wasn't
but again,
redhead.
I think that is also a way to show her becoming more of herself symbolically, but B, that passage of time again, like we talked about last week, how Graydon's beard got regrown
Yeah.
while they were on the Shattered Sea, even though they don't know how long they were out there. We can see they were out there a long time.
One of them, I think it's Borman, says, but he says it in a way that makes it really vague. He says something to the effect of, I thought maybe he did, like, we've been out here for weeks or months or something like that. Yeah, I'm figuring it was months at least that they were doing all of that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. They thought of those kind of things, like the hair going full red and the beard growing back in, so that they set up the growing the beard in the first place.
Right.
It was shaving the beard.
Right.
You know. So again, I think the ending fixed a few things that bugged me in the show.
Yeah.
And the idea that it's going to be 3 volumes, hopefully, also did a lot for it.
I would like to think, and if I'm being naive, I understand and I accept that. I would like to think that if Disney Plus allowed that 3-volume thing to still be there, like they didn't ask for it to be cut out or whatever, by saying like, hey, wait a minute, we're not even sure we're going to keep doing this show, that shows a little confidence or optimism that we'll do this. We're gonna, we won't tease people that much by putting that scene in there, because they could have literally just cut that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of things that aren't answered, and we have like evil Alora Dannon at the end, or whatever the hell that was in the giant army or whatever.
They could have cut that too. They could have just
right. They could have cut a few things. Yeah, I mean, I think people would have said, "Oh my God, we got to have we have to know what's the deal with Mad Mardigan and all of that." But I think it's teasing even more to put that 3-volume book set there and then say, so I'm expecting that before long we'll hear that season 2 is in production.
Well, while a lot of the word online hasn't been positive about it, the critic response to it was pretty good. Like on Rotten Tomato, the critic response was 85%.
Oh, you know what? I think I did hear that. Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but the fan response was in the 60s. But I think it might go up if people see the finale.
Yeah.
But also the number of people watching it was pretty good for the first few weeks.
Okay.
So I mean, through Christmas and stuff, it was in the top 10 of streaming shows.
Okay.
So hopefully it'll be enough for Disney to go, yes, let's do another one. Because I want Mad Mardigan. I want Mad Mardigan. I want to see what happens with Graydon. And I love the idea that Alora may be 2 characters going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that they might advance the relationship between Graydon and Alora just a little bit more to make it a little more poignant at the end. If they just, I don't know, it didn't have to be a full out, kissing scene or whatever. I mean, he already had said that he loved her, but she hasn't really totally accepted that. I mean,
right.
Eric is walking away with them at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I want to know what happened to Kenneth.
I was just thinking of that. Yeah. Like, what the hell happened to Kenneth?
Yeah. I think Kenneth should be a big part of the series finale, to come back to rescue Graydon or something,
Well, then the new season will be called Kenneth, the Rescue of Graydon.
Yep. Yeah. Though I do wonder if anybody was actually buying that Willow wasn't going to be in the climax of the episode.
Yeah, sure, of course.
You realize his name's on the show, right?
Home.
Jay says, "Do you think this is one show that would benefit from being binging now that it's done?" Yes, I think this is a show that binging would help, because I think people binge through weaker episodes where they might turn off episodes that are,
Yeah. But I think it would still be a good idea to, I don't want to say warn people, but just give people the heads up. Like, you may feel that it falls down somewhat in the middle, but just keep going, and they're going to redeem themselves.
Well, no series is perfect. I mean, when I talk to people about Andor, I give them the caveat that it starts slow.
Mm-hmm.
The first couple episodes are a little on the slow side, and it is kind of a slow show, but it builds the intensity.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it's still one of the better shows we got all of last year. So, all right, let's go ahead and switch over to something we started talking about last week, and we're in anticipation of, is the trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I think we got a very different trailer than not only from the first one, but from what we normally get from Ant-Man and the Wasp or Ant-Man movies. The first trailer had some humor, with him doing the Baskin Robbins thing and the guy, thank you, Spider-Man,
Spider-Man.
And so you got that it's an Ant-Man movie feel.
Exactly.
What we got in this new trailer was, this is an Avengers movie feel. This is big, serious, and I think the movie is going to be big and serious. But there was also some reveals in it that surprised me a little bit. But
let's just put the cards on the table. What we got was Kang. We got more of we got a little bit of it in that first trailer. Yeah, this one did it for me. The first one wasn't really doing much for me, but this one I finally said, yeah, okay, I'm getting more excited for this movie, because I suddenly realized how important this one is probably going to be, overall.
Yeah.
And how weird for an Ant-Man movie, right?
Yeah, Ant-Man movies are usually the palate cleanser after the big emotional movies.
Yeah,
but
it's just running around the city, a heist, and
very small movies in the sense of the ramifications.
Yep.
But I did. There was one moment in the trailer where we see Kang, and he does that double blast, and you see the blue mask, and it's like in all his glory. And I went, Jim's going to be happy.
I think
you needed to see more of Kang.
Yes, I was. Will that I was surprised that they were going to have Kang be that physical or in the thing. And that's so funny, because just a couple days ago I read there was a one shot out from Marvel called Timeless.
Yes.
Which is all Kang, and he's totally physical.
Yeah, I don't think that's a one shot. I think it's a 4-part series.
Oh no, I thought it said one. I thought it said it was one shot. Okay,
I could be wrong, because I know that there was a Kang series recently too. Timeless may be a one shot.
Timeless, I think, is a one shot. Yeah, okay. Because then it says the quest continues in Avengers.
Okay.
Yeah. But this was really good. But this is the warrior Kang almost, in a way. So that was really cool to see that in the trailer, and just to get a much better idea of what Kang we're getting. It makes me wonder how, with the setting that this is going to have, how it's going to have Ant-Man stuff in it as far as shrinking. I mean, technically they're already shrunk. So that should be like, and will he have ants to control in the quantum realm?
Maybe quantum ants. Maybe he can control what's it called? Tadagars? The little tiny creatures that look like miniature bears.
Yes, yeah, I can't think. They were, yes, they were in the. They showed them before, right. Well, that's what I mean. It's like it's maybe it's going to be new ways to be Ant-Man, in this. It's funny. It's still playing down Hope. It's called Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and honestly, she's really kind of, both trailers, they've really kind of played her down, and there's not a whole ton of Cassie in it either,
or Hank. We see quite a bit of Janet, and we see a lot of Kang and Scott, but maybe those scenes would be giveaways, or maybe that's what it is. It's those stories. It's Scott dealing with his thing, and Janet dealing with being back in the quantum realm.
So, what were the reveals that surprised you?
We get a shot of MODOK, with his mask off, and it's pretty obvious who that is.
Okay, right.
So it's like, spoiler. Let me put that up real quick, just in case anybody's going to get upset by that. What did I just do? Okay, there we go. It's pretty obvious. Tardigrades. Thank you, Jay.
Tardigrades, yes.
That was close. That's pretty obvious that MODOK is Darren Cross from the first movie. It's Corey Stoll is the actor, which I find fascinating because they already took a villain from the comics, Darren Cross, who is normally Crossfire, made him Yellow Jacket instead. And now they're making him another villain. And I mean, Yellow Jacket is iffy on being a villain in the first place.
I hear he's also Dr. Doom and Mephisto.
Well, of course he's Mephisto.
I can't wait to see who he is next.
So I thought that was just interesting that they actually showed us him with the mask off, because I thought they were going to kind of keep that a secret. Even though everybody was guessing it, they probably just went, to hell with it.
Do you think we'll actually get what, like in the movie, why he's called MODOK?
I'm sure. Oh God, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure. Maybe he won't be called MODOK.
They reinvent the acronym to make it a little more palatable.
Well,
they do the regular acronym, and then they make a little fun of it, and then they just move on. And that's usually what they do with these movies, like Ant-Man, and then we just keep moving.
Yeah. But I mean, and it could be that maybe he doesn't remember who he was, maybe because his whole body got deformed going down there, and now he's big head, tiny body. It could be that he lost his memories and stuff.
Sure. Does the Red Skull remember his previous life?
Ooh, good question.
I mean, there's no real indication necessarily that he remembers his Earth, life. Yeah.
I'd love to see Marvel do a special, like a one-shot special, maybe a 4th of July special that shows Captain America returning to Vormir to take the Space Stone or the Soul Stone back, and running into Red Skull going,
what?
How did you get here?
Well, it's a long story.
You're from Brooklyn.
So what was there another reveal that you were surprised by? I thought you said reveals.
Well, the amount of footage we had of Kang, I thought was pretty interesting.
Yes.
But
he's got the discs that he's standing on, writing on too. That really was cool. I was like, yes, okay. This is going to be Kang. Oh my goodness. Although let's see, because Kang is all about time. So let's see if they, if that aspect of the comic book character is here and now, or will that be, later? But I mean, Kang is all about zipping back and forth through time.
Right. Jay has a new acronym for MODOK. Major overhaul. Darren only kills.
I'm certain that that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like he works for Marvel Studios or something,
True,
because
true.
he may have gotten an actual scoop on this show.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why he works on my show during the week in case I get too close to something. He can
Yeah, then he
pull the
has to
plug
pull
on
the
it.
plug on you.
Yeah, yeah. Marvel has sleeper agents out there. Speaking of stuff like that, I was watching one of the videos, one of the YouTube channels, and the guy intimated that Marvel had announced or had said, and I hadn't heard this, I hadn't seen anything, but that the version of Kang we got in Loki, the He Who Remains, was actually Immortus. And I don't think they did that. Have you heard anything?
Not officially, although I remember at that time that there were people who suggested that. I'm trying to remember if the title "He Who Remains" was used in comics, because I wasn't familiar with that one. I knew, Kang, Immortus, Ramatut, and
Scarlet Centurion,
and then later his son takes over that identity or whatever. But I did so. I mean, I don't know if it's the name Immortus that I don't know if Marvel Studios wants to go down that road, and maybe, again, like, use the name, make fun of it a little bit, and then move on. I don't know. There's a moment in this Timeless one shot where Kang is saying something to the effect of something about he wondered if the way he was thinking or something like that, that the very next step was becoming Immortus. It was a it was a little moment, but it was a really interesting moment. It was almost like either a worry, a concern about, oh no, I'm becoming Immortus, or like it was inevitable that at least one facet of him, would become Immortus.
That would be interesting. But yeah, and Immortus is supposed to be the older version of Kang.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, Kang, again, I'm looking it up just to see if I get all of them. Some of the aliases they list are Iron Lad, Pharaoh Ramatut, Victor Timely, Scarlet Centurion, Immortus, Chronomonitor number 616, Kang the Conglomerator, and Mr. Griffin. It's like, yeah, I don't remember most of those. That's
okay. So that then that name, He Who Remains,
I think it was created for the show.
Yeah.
So could that be Immortus? But it just feels like they would save Immortus for something bigger.
True. I mean, literally, that could still be down the road. When the big Avengers Kang Dynasty comes out.
I'm starting to wonder how much we will end up seeing Kang over this phase, because we know that he's going to be in Kang Dynasty. We know he's going to be here, but with him having so many variations, it seems like he could pop up elsewhere. And one of the places that I think it might be is the rumored Shang-Chi sequel, which it's going to be directed by this Daniel Destin Cretton, who's also directing the Kang Dynasty. The word is now that they believe it's going to come out prior to the Kang movie, or Kang Dynasty, and that the title of it, now, right before the San Diego Con, there was a release of a bunch of titles that Marvel had not copyrighted, but registered.
I remember that, yeah.
And New World Order was one of them, Kang Dynasty, Secret Wars. Well, one of them that hasn't been announced was Shang-Chi and the Wreckage of Time.
Oh, I don't think I heard that one.
Yeah.
The Wreckage of Time.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's a good point, because I wonder if, it's funny. We didn't see Thanos that much before Infinity War, really.
Yeah. I mean, he popped up in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. And it's funny. I remember being disappointed by that it was like, there was no like seeming mystery about him or mystique or whatever, and he just seemed more of a big talking thug than anything. And boy, was I proven wrong by by when Infinity War came out. Oh shoot, I can't find that. It was such a good thing, and it talked about Immortus. But anyways,
But yeah, so I'm wondering if we're going to get some Kang stuff, or if maybe another version of Kang.
Yeah.
Which is, I would like to see them do that. I'd like to really get a feel for the variants of Kang or the different times. So if you do something like if it is the Wreckage of Time,
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, I'd love to see him go up against either Immortus or Scarlet Centurion or one of the other versions, or Ramatut.
Well, Dan, seriously, with a title like the King Dynasty, I think that you're on the right track with that thinking, that we could literally, in the comics, they had the Council of Kings. Right. And it was literally like there was female Kangs and non-human Kangs and so many different ones. I mean, I think that's probably the idea. But yeah, how many different, like, what if in the Fantastic Four movie, it's Ramatut, that they have the thing where they go back in time.
Yeah.
And run into, and what if they literally do the whole related to Dr. Doom thing?
Yep.
That he's the actor's name is Jonathan
Majors.
What if Jonathan Majors is playing Doom, Victor Von Doom?
Yeah, I think that's interesting, but I don't think Marvel would want to conflate those two villains. They're so big.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, that they had that in the beginning, that supposedly Kang was an ancestor of Doom's, but then later on they took that back. That was proved that he wasn't related to Kang.
It's a little confusing to me because his name is Nathaniel Richards.
Mm-hmm.
So you think he'd be related to Reed Richards, but then there's also the stuff that he might be related to Dr. Doom. So,
yeah. Wow. Let's see if they keep that whole Nathaniel Richards thing in the movies. Wow.
Yeah, because I don't think they give him his real name in Loki either. They just always refer to him.
Yeah.
As He Who Remains.
Yeah. I think that's really wonderful, and I said it back then, and I'll say it again, that they had him come in and play a different version of, and because by then I think he had already filmed the Ant-Man movie. I remember seeing, I can't remember, it might have been in the making of thing for Loki, that they said, he said something to the effect of, it was really wonderful to be able to play this different version of a character he had already played. Yeah. It was almost as if, like, hey, for a couple days, could you step over to this part of the studio and play this, because it's kind of King, but it's kind of not,
Well, I'm just going to wrap it up with, I hope, like I said, that they end up using every version of Kang they can.
Yeah.
Over as many shows as possible. Season 2 of Loki, and Shang-Chi, and have him pop up. Maybe he pops up in the Marvels. We haven't heard about who the bad guy in the Marvels is going to be.
Right, so, right.
Let's build this up properly and make him a good universal threat. But
I think there's a very good chance that he could be in the Fantastic Four.
All right, we need to wrap that up there.
All right.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Jim, thanks again for all the fun. You've got something to read now.
Yes. And you've got Shin Godzilla to watch.
I do. So, all right, guys, thank you. Have a great week, and we'll be back next week. Maybe Jim and I will finally do the discussion about the prequel or the sequel trilogy for Star Wars next week, because I don't know what else we're going to talk about. But Jim and I can talk about that.
That's one of those things that we'll keep teasing but never quite get to, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like Matt Damon being bumped on the show. So, all right, guys, take care. Have a great night, and we will see you all.